years. Now, this is the approach in the English common law. On the other hand, there is the very different position in French law, where we have reasons, but hidden reasons. Now, a judgment in a French court is extremely short, and it essentially amounts to a single sentence in which a syllogistic reasoning is employed to apply a principle derived from the provisions of the Code Civil to the facts. In other words, a case would say, the facts being this, the law being this, the judgment is this. So, the formulation of a French judgment suggests not only an assumption that purely deductive reasoning is possible from the provisions of the code, but also that it is the only acceptable way of reasoning. But I think Neil McCormick has shown very convincingly that although legal reasoning can be purely deductive, it seldom is. And we run, as he says, out of rules without running out of the need for legal decisions, because rules aren't clear, or because the proper classification of relevant rules is disputable, or even because there is dispute whether there is or is not any legal ground at all for some claim or decision in law, he says. Now, the impossibility of using only deductive reasoning is accepted by French lawyers. And that means that they also accept that judges may reach beyond the court and resort to policy in deciding some cases. In other words, the reasoning visible in the judgment of a French court is not the only reasoning that it employs. But before we look into that in a little more detail, I just want to make clear why this is so, why the French insist on painting, on the one hand, as Lasser puts it, an official portrait, and then there is also an unofficial portrait. And that comes from the objectives of the French Revolution in 1789. One of the things that they wanted to do is to remove the power of judges to make law, because judges before the French Revolution had actually misused their powers and made all kinds of administrative rules that made it impossible for people to follow the law properly. And so they wanted to take that lawmaking power away. So Article 5 of the Code Civil says that a judge may not make law. And this is the reason that we have now that a judgment or an arrêt, in the words of Barry Nicholas, there is none of the kind of opportunity that there exists in the common law to express individual views. But although there isn't this opportunity to do it, there is another layer of informal reasoning. And that is that there are magistrates involved in the running of a case. So before a case starts, one magistrate will prepare a conclusion, and in that conclusion, at the start of a case, a rapporteur prepares a conclusion, and in that conclusion, one finds the kind of reasoning that you find in a judgment of a common law court. And that is supposed to suggest to the judges how they should decide the case. And at the end of the case, another magistrate also prepares a so-called rapport, in which he explains how the thinking went in the court. Now, from these rapports and conclusions, one can see how the judges argue, or how they might be taken to argue, to have argued if they accepted what was suggested in the conclusion and in the report. But this means that there is a bifurcated approach. There are formal reasons in the published judgments, and there are the hidden reasons, the informal reasons, which are not made visible. So this is, in fact, makes it very difficult to actually get behind the reasons for a particular approach in French law. But this illustrates, I think, the importance of realizing how a legal system works. Because if you know how the French legal system works, it is possible to actually get at the actual reasons for the decision, which you will never find in the official reports. And if you only look for them there, if you don't know how the French legal culture works, you will not be able to get to the real essence of the thinking. And that shows how important it is to understand legal culture when you are comparing different legal systems.